Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Another Newcastle United themed live stream, and I'm joined by my dad Gordon and my brother Andy. Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you both? Well, how are you, Dad? Let's start with you, because you've had quite a week.
I've had quite a week. That's right, true. I'm sitting with my leg in plaster here for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
So this is an experience I've never had before. So I've got 12
Ruined your
weeks
Achilles.
Yeah.
Haven't you got the same injury as all the women in Arsenal's team? Is that right? They've all got ACL injuries?
Yeah, no, they've got ACLs, yeah.
Is that what you've done? Some of
that? No, mine's the Achilles, which is the bottom of me.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's why you sat at a slight angle, because your leg's in plaster.
And it's up a height.
And you're actually going to miss the match on Sunday.
Do you know, I was just lying in bed this morning when I was awake, and I'm thinking, I've been to every single game this season at home.
Yeah.
Every single one. All the cup ties, all the league games. And I get 3 games from the end, and I'm going to miss certainly this one, probably the Brighton game. And hopefully I might make the last one if I've got a boot on rather than crutches.
Well, fingers crossed for you, Dad.
Thank you.
Anyway, how are you, Andrew?
I'm fine. Yeah. It has been quite a week anyway. But yes, I've been up and down the country. It's nice to be in the northeast for a bit. Back home now. But all right. Ready to go. Big weekend.
Yeah. Big weekend in this country. We won't be talking about that tonight, though. We will be talking about Newcastle, though, and the match against Arsenal. Good evening, Morgul. And good evening, Blakey. Nice of you to join us. So I thought we'd start tonight just by quickly looking back to last week. I know me and my dad actually did a little video on the Southampton game, but just thought we'd quickly recap that before we moved on to other things. What were your thoughts on that match, Dad?
Well, as we said at the time, it was a game of 2 halves. We weren't at our best in the first half, but having looked at the highlights, we still created quite a lot of chances. And had we scored one of those chances, particularly the Bruno one, I think, when he flashed it wide, I think he probably should have scored.
That was a good chance.
But if we'd gone 1-0 up, we would have just gone on to win the game anyway. But at half time, being 1-0 down, I still felt we would bring on Wilson and we would go on to win the game. I know that sounds a bit arrogant these days, doesn't it? But it honestly felt that way. And of course, the second half we were just dominant, weren't we? We were just excellent. Isak tore them apart down the left, and Callum Wilson was just a man inspired, wasn't he? I mean, he could have had a hat-trick if he'd with a bit of luck. So it was
VAR ruled one out, of course, but he was offside.
Right. Yeah, he was.
He deserved his hat-trick. Maybe it'll happen for him at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know what
I think what it shows is we are really a good side.
He's still talking.
Yeah, Dad's still going.
Oh. Yeah. Sorry.
It's all right. I thought you'd stopped. So never mind. I don't know what you caught of the game, Andrew, but did you see it all or did you catch the highlights?
I caught the highlights. I wasn't able to for other reasons, work race sort of stuff. But I was. It was one of those ones where I was following it and I saw us go behind, and you know when you're not there, you kind of think, okay, is it going to be one of those days? But then again, I need to start getting used to this team having some sort of character, really. And I know we've had it for quite a while now, but it was just great. And I don't think it is arrogant to say, we'll just bring Wilson on because for the first time in ages, the bench is good. We've got some good players on the bench. To bring on and actually change games and affect games, and that's what we did. And like you say, Wilson, he's inspired. I think he's also peed off that he still can't get a start.
Yeah, he made some comments, didn't he, on his podcast with Antonio, and Antonio was trying to push him, wasn't he, about whether he wanted to whether he'd rather be a sub who came on and scored or started the game but won and didn't score or something. And you could tell Wilson wanted the goals, like he's desperate to score, isn't he? But he also wants to start matches.
Yeah, that podcast has just descended into them ribbing each other every week. Which, to be fair, they don't really talk about football very much. They're just taking the mick out of each other. But Yeah, I think that whole kind of super sub thing is not a label he clearly wants. He's a very good number 9. He's as good a number 9 as we've had, in a decade. So,
since Shearer,
yeah, and he reminds me of Shearer. He's obviously he's not as good, but he is just that kind of strong physical presence in the box. Mm-hmm. He gets onto things. And I mean, he might not like it, but I think the fact that he's not playing every game or every minute of every game means that we're keeping him sharper.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll get on to that conversation a little bit later on because we're going to talk about the Arsenal game coming up. But just going back to the Southampton game, my view on it was watching it live. The first half we weren't up to scratch. Now, we might have had some chances, Dad, and Gordon had a couple of chances. Bruno had a chance. So we did have some chances, but the feeling was it just wasn't a great performance. We weren't. Yeah. The ball retention was pretty poor, or it felt poor anyway. Almost like we were trying to force things a little bit too much, and I think it wasn't quite working.
I think that's right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, and I think that the passing wasn't as sharp as it should be. We were just a little bit off the intensity that we normally expect, but because we are a good side, we still create chances when we're not playing particularly well. But you're right, and we all said it at half time. We need to get better in the second half. So, that's what we did.
And what I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I'll probably be saying it for years and years as long as Eddie Howe's at the club. But I love the fact that if something's not going right in the first half, you just know that he will sort it at half time, and you know that whatever issues there are, the team can come out and change it.
Yep.
I was asked today. I watched the press conference this afternoon in full, and it's actually a joy to watch actually because it's great. I mean, listen, he's just so sort of meticulous and careful, but he was asked about the goals that we're conceding because we had all those clean sheets, and then I think he's a little bit irritated that we keep making this mistake that leads to a goal, but we're only conceding on basically one goal a game, which is not a bad thing, and our defence is still the best in the league, I think, over the season. But he was talking about it being structurally right, but not quite, right. And actually, when you look at the goal, and I said it to you at the time, Ian, that we seem to just stand still when the ball was crossed in. The defenders seem to just looking at each other, which it's not been the case, has it, this season?
Yeah. It is annoying that we do keep conceding a goal. Now I know we keep scoring 3 or 4 or whatever at the moment, but like that, it's still. I do find it. I don't want to over egg it really, but like it is a little bit concerning that we are letting in these goals. And the goal at Everton was rubbish. Like
it was. I agree. It's frustrating. It's being masked by the fact we've scored tons of goals. If we're having games where we're not able to score more than one or we're struggling, which we have had patches this season where that has been the case, then obviously that's not a good sign. It's not.
I think the thing is though, do not think as long as we are hitting 3 or 4, it doesn't really matter. Early in the season, we weren't scoring, and it was our clean sheets which were getting us either a draw or, as you say, a 1-0 win. But which do you prefer? Do you prefer winning 3-4-1?
Of course, I'd always. But I guess the point is, there might come a game where we don't do that.
Yeah,
and that's why we don't like. That's why Howe's not happy with it because he knows that not every game we're not going to score 3 every game. We're not going to score 4 every game. We're playing Arsenal on Sunday. If we give them a 1-goal head start, it's going to be extremely tough to get back into the game, no matter how good we are.
Yeah, it's just about progress in the team, isn't it? It's not. When you're when you're scoring 3 or 4 goals, you tend to win games. That's why when you see games like 4-3 with the Liverpool West Ham game, they're quite rare results. Normally, if you score 3 or more goals in a game, you win it, and so that's been fine. But as a team, if you want to progress and get better, then you've got to stop silly mistakes at the back. Because you can create problems for yourself that you might not need later on.
Yeah, there was an article in the Athletic today. I don't know if you've picked it up. It was talking about why is there so many goals in the Premier League, and it was talking about the change in a decade from where the goalkeepers were launching the ball 10 years ago, But since, I suppose it's with the advent, there's talking about Pep and about this, the playing the ball out from the back, and all teams do it. Even the poorer sides do it, and then they get caught in possession around the penalty area, and it leads to goals, isn't it? And there is much more risk of that sort of, and you need to be on your game to be able to play the ball out. And goalkeepers are the start of an attack, not just about.
Yeah, I was going to say the other side of that, of course, is there's the risk of losing the ball or whatever, but the other thing is teams are keeping possession more, and therefore not just booting the ball up and it being 50-50 all the time. It's like they're being more controlled in their attack and possession. So I guess that's maybe leading to more goals as well.
Yeah, and some of the best things I've seen this season, particularly of late, have been the way we've actually managed the ball out of defence in tight situations. I mean, there was one that was highlighted on Twitter in the Southampton game, and it was at the far end where we played the ball in triangles with about four or five players, and we got it out from what seemed to be an impossible. Yeah. Normally we would give it away as a throw in or a corner, but we're capable and talented enough to be able to do that.
The style of football, it has changed, and it's good. I mean, just to bring out, that big fat Sam into the picture, just bring this week after his comments this week. Like football has moved on. I mean, he's been around clearly, but. And he's got experience, bless him. But actually, you look at the coaching that Howe and and Arteta, and I mean they're imitating Pep in some ways, not entirely, but Eddie Howe took a year out to go and learn how to better himself.
Yeah, I think the top managers just have that. Like then they just leave no stone unturned, do they? So they're so thorough, and that's what sets Guardiola and Klopp and kind of all the top managers.
It's really rare.
I think Howe's got the potential to be like that because that's just how he did it at Bournemouth and on very limited budgets and all that kind of stuff. You can only deem him a success at Bournemouth for what he did, and the Bournemouth fans love him, just like we love him. And I think I do genuinely believe Howe has he could be an absolute great.
It's work ethic as much as anything there, isn't it? Yeah. But it's not just work ethic is I turn up and I yell at the players and I make them do what I want. It's that
purposeful.
It's really, everything he does is thought out and meticulous. And he even those weird comments about I spent some time digitizing all my training plans. And what?
They're built differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Differently. Yeah. Okay, well that's Southampton, and obviously just to quickly round that up. We talked about the defense, but actually the second half we were unbelievable, and we absolutely steamrolled them. And Isak out wide was fantastic. Wilson came on and was amazing, and it could have been 5 or 6. It could have easily ended up in that second half. We could have scored more.
Yeah, I think to bring that old Keegan adage back in, the best form of defence is attack, and they just that's the way to do it. It's always frustrating when a team don't do that, and you just push the ball forward and do what you've been doing. Fatigue and things go into it, but they were brilliant in that second half, and and I love the confusion around who scored that goal. Everyone seemed to get hugged. Botman was being hugged.
Yeah, well, I mean, the stadium announcer announced it as Bruno. I mean, it just wasn't. I don't know if his monitor was broken or something.
Clearly didn't see it and didn't watch the replay.
Absolutely terrible shout. Anyway, very good. So let's move on. So we are currently in the race for the top 4. We're in 3rd and we're doing really well. And we sort of did this last week. We'll do it again tonight. So these are the remaining fixtures of the other teams. And it kind of makes for interesting reading. Obviously, Man United dropped points to Brighton last night. So their maximum points they can get now is 78. It kind of puts us in pole position. We can still get to 80, theoretically. Spurs and Villa all but not an issue for us now, I would argue. Brighton still have 1 million games left, so technically can catch us. Although they did look good last night, to be fair. They are a good team. And Liverpool, they're the ones, I guess, that people are most concerned about.
Yeah, I think Liverpool, we said this last week, didn't we? You can see them winning all those games. I still think it unlikely because it's just they've got a lot of games to play in it's fast turnaround. they were quite lucky the other night.
They've been really lucky.
Yeah, I think that.
Well, they're lucky at West Ham as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the game is Brentford is the tough one for them. I think Brentford could really have a go at them.
Well, that's tomorrow.
Yeah,
and really, it would. I don't know how people feel about this who are watching. Maybe let us know in the comments. But like, I know, like, there's many Newcastle fans who just seem to think it's not an issue. Like, we just need to get 6 or 7 points. We'll be absolutely fine. We've got 5 games to do it, and I totally buy that point of view. I get that, but there's still that possibility that we play Arsenal. Like, Liverpool could beat Brentford, we could lose to Arsenal, and then all of a sudden the pressure is on us. Even though
it's that thing. I think a lot of us are thinking about it, but I think where this team are different is that they'll just be. I do think that Howe has them coached in a way where they're just thinking about the next game. And it's a massive game on Sunday, and it's a tough one. But I go back to my point last week. I'm like, Brighton, they're not going to beat Man City. I don't think. I think we could cause them problems as well. Although they're good. Arsenal.
The thing about Brighton for us, Andrew, is we just don't need to lose to them.
That's right. And that's the point. And so I think they'll lose to Man City because I think they'll be pushing to win the league if they haven't already won it by then. And I can't see Brighton getting 73 points. And if they do, fair play to them. But I also sort of think that I just don't see us not getting over 70 points. I really don't.
I'm not massively worried. And Blakey makes a really good point here, especially with last night's result.
Yeah.
Man United are in more danger of being caught than us. At this point, and and the way Man United are playing, to be honest, they could quite easily drop more points too. So it's not a clear picture, obviously, and I think we'll be. I do think we'll be fine. I think the problem with a lot of our support, and I'll include myself in this, is that we've been bred on this thing that Newcastle will implode, that we will somehow find a way to cock up the most, winning situation.
That's what Spurs do.
I think the thing is, Dad, I think people say, "Oh, it's because of Ashley," and we were terrible and we were rubbish under Ashley. But actually, I think if you look further back, look back to the 95-96 season, we blew it.
I think we're scarred
and it comes from that, doesn't it? It's like even though we were miles ahead, we still didn't do it. And I think that fear is deep-rooted within the fan base.
And to be honest, I can go back further than that, as you might imagine. 1980, New Year's Day, we beat Sunderland 3-1 at St James's. We were well clear at the top of the second division, and promotion looked certain. We then got beat by Chester in the FA Cup, and then we won 2 more games all season. I mean, we simply imploded. I mean, that was shocking.
All right.
and what's worse, Sunderland went up.
So I don't think with the games that we've got that it's going to be that bad. And if we don't win another game, we'll finish on 65 points, and that'll be that. And so be it.
I think. Do you know what it is? One of the reasons I watch Eddie Howe's press conferences is actually that sense of calm and that sense of focus. What you mentioned earlier, and he was talking about. He's still not talking about Champions League. He's still not. He's just about the next game. He's not even talking about the transfers because it's about the next game, preparing for it, having everything set up, and that is the confidence that we know that. And I said this last week, didn't it, that we would, when we go into a game, I have no doubt that we are as well prepared as we have ever been as a football club.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Even if we lose as we did against Villa, it'll not be for the lack of preparation. And sometimes, like any team, you can get beat. Teams don't win every single game they go out to play. But I do feel our preparation will be right. And I think there is enough in this team and a determination in this team, I suspect, to make sure that we don't miss out. And I think we'll get the 7 points minimum.
I think we'll be comfortably. I think there'll be another 10 points, 12 points potentially. I'll be already confident.
Yeah,
we've only lost a handful of games all season. We're not going to go on that sort of run. We'll beat Leicester. I mean, as much as I enjoyed their game the other night,
yeah, they were terrible, weren't they?
They were terrible. Yeah,
they're pretty
it was a very
poor.
entertaining game, but they're poor. They're back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's our remaining fixtures. I mean, some people in the comments making great comments, like Morgul's repeating what you've sort of said there, Andrew. We've only lost 4 all season. It's very, very, very unlikely we're going to suddenly lose 5, or whatever, or even another 4. And I agree with you, Dad. But Howe just breeds that confidence, doesn't he? Because he is so calm. He is so, like we were saying at the start of the show, like you just know he'll have us prepared really, really well, and he won't be. Look, the players won't be as affected by the league table. No. They'll just be focusing on what they have to do and how to beat Arsenal on Sunday.
I heard a short clip of Arteta in his press conference. He's still whinging about us back in January. And I think he's worried about us. And they've got a lot to fear. Because although they're a good side, there's no doubt about that, because that's why they're second and they've had a good season. But coming to us with that, it'll be manic on Sunday. It'll be absolutely like it was last season in May, where the place was bouncing. And the players will
get at their defence. No, there's no sense in thinking we can't. We will get at their defence. We go back to that other discussion earlier, like, will we keep a clean sheet? And do we, if we have a poor first half, and we've had a few poorer first half than we've had second halves recently.
We've certainly started games poorly, apart from the Spurs game. Like the last half a dozen games, all of them we've started not brilliant.
To be fair, though, if you look at the teams where we started well recently, it's been Man United, Tottenham. We seem to it's maybe teams which we see as a bigger game, and maybe that's a problem in a way. But we certainly went at both Man United and Tottenham, and we were much better in those early stages. It's been the other games where we've maybe struggled. I don't know. We're just off the pace. Maybe it's because we played a lot of games in a short while. I don't know. But I think we'll be fine on Sunday. I think we'll give it a real good go. Yeah. And if we win, we'll win. But, at the end of the day, it'll be a good game.
We got to look forward to these things. What a treat. That's the thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. It's like, sorry, I'm covering your face there, Andrew, with this comment. But Michael makes a good point. He's excited for our last few games, and we should be excited as a set of fans.
Definitely,
like, this is what we live for. This is what we've wanted, and there's pressure, but actually, and we all want the Champions League qualification so badly, but like, you've still got to enjoy the ride. You've still got to enjoy this, the fact we're in this position, because we're going to have to get used to it.
Definitely. I mean, that's the whole thing, isn't it? And moving forward. But I think we're in a really, really... Would any of the other teams around us swap our position for theirs?
No.
Of course they would. Yeah. They would want to be where
they would, obviously. Yeah,
they would want to be third top, 2 points ahead of Man United, level games. Nobody with a game in hand can actually catch us with a game in hand.
That's the other thing. Like, none of the teams we've got to play, none of them have beaten us this season. We haven't lost to them, and so they'll all, we go into most games as favourites. Sunday's games arguably not that, but we go into most of the other games as favourites. And it's not about other teams. If Brighton are having a great season, I'm really pleased for Brighton. What a well-run club. Who'd have thought replacing Potter with that manager would have made them better, and it did. Great. It's another team pushing out one of I love it that Chelsea are in the bottom half of the table, and that's that. I mean, I'm going to love going to Stamford Bridge and winning. You know what I mean? And things like that, because that's Frank Lampard loses 15th game in a row, whatever it is.
He needs to just pack it in, doesn't he?
Bring it on. Exactly.
Just accept management isn't for him.
Yeah. This is your retirement game, Frank. You're done. So it's not about other teams as well. There are good. Liverpool might go on and win every game. I still think we'll finish above them.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
I do agree.
That's the only choker there is if Liverpool do catch us is that we lost to them twice, and it was
And that one at Anfield's a right killer because they played 9 minutes injury time, which was just outrageous.
Well,
anyway,
99th minute penalty last night for Brighton. That was interesting, wasn't it?
That was quite funny. So I don't know. Well, I'll just put the table up for one more look. So, like you say, no one would want... Well, everyone would want to be in our position. Plus, we are in form. We're in better form than Man United. There's only... Spurs and Villa... Spurs in particular dropped away. Villa, basically, they can hardly catch us anyway. So 7th and 8th are kind of taken care of. Brighton, I think they've got really tough matches. Yeah. So they will drop points, even though they're decent. But ultimately, I think we'll get the points we need. I really do. I don't see, with the games we've got there, I know Leeds and Big Fat Sam and all that kind of stuff, but
there's a minimum of 9 points there for me.
Pardon?
There's a minimum of 9 points there.
Yeah. I think the Arsenal game will just go a long way to obviously decide making us feel comfortable. If we beat them, no one's going to be worried.
We'll just run out of games. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll be absolutely fine. So it's interesting. I think, like Morgan said, atmosphere on Sunday is just going to be insane. And I can't remember who it was. Someone said, basically, oh no, it was Morgan. It's in that comment. Arsenal don't like that. They don't respond well to big atmospheres generally, as proven last season when they came to us.
Exactly. I mean, it was such a fantastic night. Yeah.
They're a better team than they were last year. But
they're still.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. They are a good team. I'm not.
Good players.
I'm not. They've been fantastic. They really have, and it'll be hurting them the position they're in, and that might be something that's in our favour as well. I think when they kicked off against Man City a couple of weeks ago, I felt like they'd accepted their fate before they'd even kicked a ball against Man City, and I think psychologically they're maybe a little bit fragile, and I think that could play into our hands.
I hope so.
What do you think about this? Are you worried about the Leeds game?
No,
because of Fat Sam, who's as good as Pep, and
they're hoping for an instant bounce here. I mean, It would be hilarious if they went to Man City and won at the weekend. Let's not, but I mean, they've been utter dross.
It ain't going to happen.
They've been conceding goals like we've been scoring them.
Yeah,
and they've been dreadful, and their keeper looks shot. So, I mean, he might get a bounce, but I can see them getting well and truly spanked at the weekend, and that might be funny as well. So,
yeah,
I think the only worry about the Leeds game is it's at Leeds, isn't it? And the crowd will be up, but I think we've got enough to beat Leeds. Sam Allardyce, I know Sam Allardyce.
Mind you, that game at Christmas where we drew 1-1 was very frustrating. But they actually came and we got a draw, didn't they? It
was 0-0.
I've been through this season.
I think it was 0-0, wasn't it? That was the.
Yeah, it was awful.
It was. But we should have won that game.
God, we should have won that game.
They were time wasting, which was hilarious. And we went to Arsenal and then we got accused of time wasting and being anti-football.
Well, did you see Arteta? I mean, I know he was asked about it, but he was still talking about that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Really got in his head about that, and I think, I just think I'm hoping Howe uses that as kind of fuel, just like go and show them that we're not that team, and just steamroller them and try and.
You don't think that's managers trying to get an edge?
What did you say? Sorry.
Do you not think that's managers trying to get an edge?
Oh yeah, it's of course it is, but I just think. I just think no one can look at the way we play this season. And I hate this label that we've somehow got of being anti-football and boring, because we're not.
No,
we aren't. Not even close.
Last week, Southampton were wasting time all the way through the first half, weren't they?
Yeah. I mean, it is happening a lot.
It happens a lot to all teams, doesn't it? Really,
it does. But I mean, I think Ten Hag used it around the cup final as well. It's to give the referees a bit of a kind of a. It's almost like make sure the referees are on top of it and that sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's all just percentages, isn't it? And I think that's why
he's very. Do you not think he's very annoying? He's another one now.
I think, Dad, you let yourself get wound up more than you need to. I just think it's.
He is.
The mind.
Yeah, I don't like him.
No, I don't like it at all.
The way he goes on the touchline in games just does my head in. I can't.
It's Arteta.
No, it just looks like an idiot.
Arteta.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Stand down, mate.
There's a list of them, isn't there? I mean, thank goodness Klopp is got to face some sort of kind of sanctions for what he did the other week.
Klopp's disgraceful. He's been like that all season. They're all
well. Klopp's been like that for a couple of years at least.
Yeah.
He's getting worse.
He is, because they're not winning.
And then that babbling apology that he gave in his press conference the next day was just, well, what was that about? Like,
I didn't hear that, to be fair.
He's just trying to play it down, isn't he?
Well, when you've got a sore leg and you've got nothing else to do.
I pulled his hamstring, didn't he? Yeah. When you're...
Remember?
Yeah, if you've just joined us, by the way, my dad's sat at an angle because he's in plaster because he's really hurt his Achilles.
Really,
that's why he's sat at a jaunty angle.
Yeah, I've got a nice blue plaster on my leg.
Here's something that I just popped into my head, and I thought I'd challenge you with, because you love a little challenge. And people who are watching, you can try and join this in. I was thinking, like, this season has felt like forever, hasn't it? It's gone on forever. It's the longest season ever. But it got me thinking, like, the takeover was about 18 months ago, right? So the start of the 21-22 season was ages ago, right? And I thought, okay, what was the starting 11 when we played West Ham at home on the opening day of the 21-22 season?
Well, Callum Wilson started.
Callum Wilson scored, yeah.
Yeah, so Wilson's one of them. Yeah. Feel free to chip in the comments.
Was it Darlow in goal?
It was not Darlow in goal.
Dubravka?
No.
Oh, it was the other one.
Woodman.
Yeah, Woodman.
It was.
Yeah, Woodman had started in goal. You won't believe the back five. Unreal.
Lascelles?
No.
Kraft? Kraft, yes.
Yeah.
Dummett?
No.
No. Who else was?
It says 5-3-2, but really you could say it was a 3-5-2. So it's like wing backs.
It was Brucey, wasn't it? Well, Joelinton?
No, he was on the bench.
What? Good grief.
George Jack has got it with Kieran Clark.
Kieran Clark, of course, yeah.
And Morgul's got Clark and Murphy. Murphy was right back or right wing back, and Kieran Clark. Mark, there's no Dubravka and no Lascelles.
Richie?
Richie, was the left wing back.
Miggy?
Right. Left wing back.
Yeah.
Miggy on the right?
He was on the left, actually.
Oh, was he? Okay.
Not Hendrick Blakey.
No.
Richie was in goal.
Maxi,
yeah. You've got three left.
So what positions are we?
Two midfielders and a central defender.
Murphy
was the right wing back. Not Fraser, Joel.
What crap defenders do we have?
Think about it. One of the midfielders. Well, both midfielders played a lot of games for us, actually.
Oh, Shelvey,
yeah.
Shelvey, of course, yeah.
And like a bit of a fan favourite, the other one, I would say. Did a good job for us. Colin's got it in the comments.
Let's have a look. What's he got?
Hayden.
Oh, Isaac
Hayden.
And then just the defender. It's not Manquillo.
Fernandez?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Fernandez. Yeah. So that was the team. Let me show you the team. So that was the team.
Yeah,
wow.
How crap is that team?
Yeah.
Hey, man.
And yet you've got Wilson, Maxi, Almiron.
Yeah. And look at the bench.
Well, Murphy in defence.
I put the subs on the side because you've got Longstaff, Cher, you've got Joelinton.
Why was Cher and Lascelles on the bench?
Exactly.
Well, I don't know, because
Bruce was
that off the back of the? I don't know. Cher, was that off the back of the Euros, and Cher had played for Switzerland?
Possibly, but I mean, come on, it's like
But it was
Fernandez, Kraft, and Clark.
Yeah, look at that. Sent three.
I mean, to be fair, Fernandez was
Fernandez was
wonder why he didn't get a game under Howe, to be honest. But
I mean, let's not also forget Well, who was the sub keeper that day then? Mark Gillespie. We must have been absolutely wrecked for goalkeepers then.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember Woodman playing at all. So,
no, I do. He played a few, and then we got rid of him.
He played a few of the early games. Yeah,
I totally.
We had 3 keepers quite early on in the season.
Yeah, I'd totally forgotten that. But look at that. That was less than 2 years ago.
I know. It's amazing. No wonder we didn't win a game for goodness knows how long.
And then Longstaff on the bench.
Bruce Ball.
Do you remember though? Do you remember that game? I remember Callum Wilson talking to Antonio about it on that podcast. And he was saying after about 10 minutes, or certainly early in the game, Newcastle, he said we were blowing hard because we were so unfit. And West Ham were actually much fitter.
Yeah.
Even at that
I was
stage.
there.
Yeah.
I was at the game.
Yeah.
Who scored for West Ham then? What was it?
Oh God, I don't know.
I forgot.
You weren't at that game, and it was at Newcastle.
Was it? Oh no, I did. It was the previous season. I saw Jeff Hendricks scored the previous season, didn't he?
Yeah.
Wilson scored down there, didn't he?
That's right, yeah.
So, I have to confess, I wasn't at that game either.
Well,
I was in me not going to the game stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark makes a good point. Cher was shocking under Bruce. Like his turnaround's gone a bit untalked about, actually, hasn't it?
Yeah. There's always a player in there, we felt, though. What didn't we like some of these players? But Bruce was the hindrance to them all, wasn't it?
Let's talk about Longstaff. His interview that he did the other week, about a week ago, maybe, in the Athletic was quite eye-opening, wasn't it? He was quite critical of Bruce, actually, and how Bruce almost ruined his Newcastle career.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I did read that.
And then basically fell out of love with it. He was basically sounded depressed, like he sounded like he was really struggling.
Do you remember when we went under Rafa? We went to West Ham, and it was deemed to be our supporters got in the head. It was Longstaff v Declan Rice, and West Ham ran out 2-0 winners, and Longstaff went off injured, and then he was never quite the same again after that. Certainly under Bruce, and it's only because of Howe's belief in him that he's
I'd love to see what Eddie Howe would do with Declan Rice.
I know. Yeah, wouldn't we all?
Because Declan Rice is amazing in a David Moyes team.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the game against Arsenal on Sunday then. Obviously, looking ahead, I don't know whether Longstaff will be back. And obviously, if he's not, then that will affect Howe's team selection. Do you think if Longstaff's fit, do you think he'll put him back in?
If he's properly fit,
I think if he's fit, he will. Yes, I think he'll play.
Yeah.
But I've got my doubts whether he will.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
So will be fit.
I'm not sure he will be fit from what.
What Eddie Howe means by fit, though, is can you run 15 kilometers in 80 minutes?
Yeah,
that kind of fit.
The thing is with Sean Longstaff, he's like they call him, the running man, don't they? And I think he'll have a certain level of fitness there anyway. So I think if he can play, he will play him. I just doubt he will actually be fit enough to play. So in which case, it then leaves us with that issue of what do we do? Because I think Longstaff will come back in. And if Longstaff comes back in, I'm not sure he'll start with Isak and Wilson. Yeah,
well, that's the other big question, isn't it?
He won't.
Does he start both Isak and Wilson after the Southampton second half? The more I've thought about this week, the less, even if Longstaff isn't available, I'm more convinced he won't do this against Arsenal, because I think for a couple of reasons, and people have pointed this out to me after I made a video on it earlier in the week. One of the reasons that Wilson is doing so well is because Howe is managing him perfectly. We know that Wilson's a bit like made of glass, and Howe is managing his fitness superbly.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing that someone pointed out to me, it was like, if we start with both, then what is the coming off the bench? It kind of leaves us open to kind of not having that as much of a surprise or big sort of player who can change the game in a big way.
Yeah, I think I agree with that thought, Shane. I listened to, like I said, Eddie Howe's conference today, and he was talking about the thing is we've got two really top class strikers, and he was saying about what he's saying about managing them. And if we're playing 3 games in a week, I'm not going to play them for those 3 games. So we're getting the best out of 2 great players by actually not giving them all 3 full games to play. And I think that's working. And it's also this spurring each other on because they feel they should be in the team, but they're not. And then they come on and change games. And both have done that from the bench, haven't they? So I tend to agree. I don't think he will start with 2 because the thing with Eddie Howe is he's a little bit of a creature of habit at times as well, isn't he? And I think he has his team set up in a certain way. The interesting thing was if Longstaff doesn't play, who will he play up front? I mean, it'll be either obviously Isaac and Wilson, and I kind of call it which one he'll start with because he'll second guess anybody. But who else would you have?
He'll play Miggy and Murphy.
Do you think it'll be Miggy and Murphy?
I think he won't play Gordon. I think he'll play Miggy and Murphy.
No, I think Gordon will be not playing. He'll be on the bench.
No.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think Almiron will get a start.
Possibly. Okay. I don't think he'll play Murphy and Miggy.
No, that's what I'm saying because they're both.
It'll be one or the other,
right?
It'll be one or the other, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, same side of the pitch, isn't it?
Yeah, it'd be like.
Yeah, well, it'd be one of the. It'd be Murphy and Joelinton then probably. So I'm getting my formation mixed up. But he won't change the formation. That's the point.
No.
He's got a system.
Yeah.
And he'll freshen it up by bringing someone on. But I can see him starting with Isak.
Yeah, I think he'll start Isak. I don't see how. It sounds mad because Wilson scored all the goals like in April, but I just don't see how you don't play Isak against Arsenal. Like I just think what he contributes is just insane.
And then you've got that thing in your tool belt where you can switch him to the left and then give their right back a hard time for part of the game when you bring on Wilson, who's a very different proposition. You'll probably put. I think the third thing is I think Joelinton, will go forward, which is a shame because I like Joelinton in midfield, but he's solid at least, isn't he?
The thing is, though, with that, Andrew, I think Joelinton actually with him and Willock were the interchange.
Yeah, they can.
So they're both, and that Joelinton when he's played down the left has actually been quite instrumental in some of the goals we've scored.
He's been absolutely brilliant.
I just think it'll be sad. So who would you play midfield for that? So you would have
Willock and Bruno,
Willock, Joelinton,
maybe.
And then
I mean, you've got Maxi as well, who's possibly, but I don't see him starting.
He'd be on the bench.
Been out for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not beyond the realms. He plays Miggy and Murphy, I suppose, in that situation. If he doesn't want to start with Wilson and Isak, and Longstaff's not available, there is a chance that happens.
Yeah.
And Miggy goes on the other side because actually he's been quite effective at times.
There's a group of them know the job of wherever they're supposed to be on the pitch. So they might set up in a certain way, but they do obviously you move around in a game, and so there are times where they do know how to go. We miss Longstaff's running. And that's the thing, isn't it?
It's the covering and the thing, and against Arsenal, that can be
get overrun.
Yeah.
Just before we continue, Ben's got a good question here, and I think it's worth discussing. It's not something we've talked about for a while. What has happened to Saint-Maximin? He was our best player under Bruce, but since Howe took charge, he really hasn't done anything. I think it's a case of under Bruce, Saint-Maximin was our star player. We didn't have many players who could do much. Yeah. There was kind of Almiron, but he wasn't. You couldn't rely on him. And Saint-Maximin was exciting and different and kind of our X factor, if you like. But since Howe's come in, we don't need that standout player. We've got a team full of players who are really, really good. And I think, although
we've got a team with 3 or 4 standout players in it.
Yeah, and like we were mentioning last week, picking player of the season is going to be really hard this season because there's just so many players who could be our player of the season.
I like Maxi. I've always really enjoyed watching him play. He's frustrating in a different way to Miggy. but I think I mean, it seems to be common knowledge that he really did love being he was top dog
Being the
under
star.
Bruce, wasn't he? Because Bruce would, if he was fit or not, Bruce would play him, and it would get the ball up to Maxi, and let's see what we can do. And you realise how good a striker Wilson is once you see him in a team like this. It was all wasted, that kind of stuff. That the way he played the football.
I think it's a bit harsh, the overall criticism in a way, because he was injured from August.
Yeah, that's been part of the
started
problem.
the season and he started off well. He got injured, and it took him a while to get back into it. And then it took him a few games then to get back to the level. And he was just getting back. I mean, 2 or 3 of the games he played really before he was injured, he was playing really, really well.
He was,
and
he was playing really well.
And the thing with Maxi is he gives us something that we don't have in the side when he's not there, because his ability to actually carry the ball out of tight situation and into the deep into the opponent's half and win free kicks was and also he scares the living daylights out of defenders when he's running at them.
He does. I don't think it's about unfairness. I think he hasn't played. The injury thing is right. He's not been fit, and he's another one made of glass. To be fair, he's got snappy legs, doesn't he? He's always got soft tissue injuries and things like that. But the thing with him is he's not. And I think this is where Howe is different. Howe will probably love the fact that he can carry the ball forward. Isak can carry the ball forward, but the end product is not always there with Maxi. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
And I think that's
and that's why
that Howe wants.
And that's why ultimately Saint-Maximin came to us and not like a top team, because
that's exactly right.
As good as he is, as much talent as he has got, it's that end product that you can't always rely on with him, even though on his day he can be as good as anyone.
Yeah. I think that's right. But the overall assessment of this season is a little bit tainted by the fact that he's actually missed a lot of it through injury.
Yeah, and I think it was unfortunate. I think you made a good point there, Dad. Just before he got this latest injury, actually, we saw a couple of performances from him where I actually thought, Eddie Howe's actually moulding him into an Eddie Howe player.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, of course, he got injured, and he's not been able to build on that, because he was starting to actually do more for the team rather than dribbling into nowhere and kind of losing possession.
The thing is, though, we if we talk about building squads and moving forward, and Eddie Howe sort of referenced this today, you're building a squad of good players that you can rely on. And next season, if we're playing more games, we are going to need more players. Now, clearly, we will strengthen in the summer, but equally, he's talking about giving Paul Dummett an extension to his contract, because he says, we'll see things. And he can play central defence, he can play right back. Now, that may surprise a lot of people, but this is the sort of thinking that's going on.
Yeah, I think part of the Dummett thing, Dad, I do agree. I think Dummett's all right, but I think part of that is because he's got an eye on the European rules next season, so you've got to have 4 players in your squad who
exactly
trained by you as a youngster, and Dummett obviously is a big tick in that box because we don't have that many options.
Yeah. But that's right. But it's still part of that squad, isn't it?
No, I know.
Need.
I just don't
for whatever reason they're in there.
I think Howe's being polite with what he says, because obviously he's not going to come out and say he's rubbish. But we
Howe never throws anyone under the bus. He always, last week he defended Gordon. He's always very quick to talk about how hardworking his players are, and he seems to like Maxi, but ultimately he's not sentimental. The other thing to remember as well, I mean, just thinking about kind of the squad thing, it's been the reason I think we've done so well this season has been the consistency of the team, and like the back 5 have played so many games.
It's remarkable. It's remarkable, that back 5.
And we need to remember that, because next season the chances are there'll be injuries or suspensions or whatever. I mean, we lost Pope obviously to a stupid suspension. I think Cher's had a couple of games out because he gets concussed every other week anyway, doesn't he?
If there's a player down on the pitch, we often just say, "Oh, it must be Cher."
But basically, when they've all been fit, and that's been most of the season they've played, and I think that we can't always get used to that, and a squad is going to be needed. So it might not be that Maxi goes.
Yeah. But just to finish on Maxi, Ben, who asked the original question, has said, "Do you think he can come back good?" I think yes. I do.
Yeah.
I think he
Yeah,
could
I
still
do.
offer us something. If we sell him, I wouldn't be that massively upset. But if he stayed, I also wouldn't be bothered. I think he could be a valuable squad member.
I agree. Definitely.
Good. We all agree. Marvellous. So looking ahead to Arsenal then. So obviously, there's big selection decisions for Eddie Howe. And who knows, like I said, the more this week's gone on, I think from the high of the Southampton game, I just thought, oh, well, he's gonna play Isak and Wilson. But I think as it's gone on, I just think the more I've thought about it, the more I think that's less likely. Mark sort of makes a point here about Max. If Maxi's available, it might let Howe start Wilson and Isak and then bring Maxi on. We've also got Gordon from the bench at that point. So I suppose there are still some options, but I don't know, maybe even Miggy might be on the bench depending on the team he picks. So I guess there are still potential options on the bench, but I guess we'll just have to see. I'm not going to ask you for a score prediction or anything like that, but how do you feel? I mean, if you want to put one in the box, if you're watching, feel free. But how are you feeling about the game? Do you think it'll go in our favour? What do you reckon, Andrew?
I hope it does. I don't know. I'm always realistic. I try to be realistic here. I think they're a very, very good team. And, there's a lot. I mean, we can always try and think about the psychology of these things. Like, are they wounded? Are they deflating? I mean, was it Chelsea they beat the other night, which wasn't hard, obviously. So that could be a red herring. I fancy us not to lose. I think I could see us winning it, but I would say it's either 1-1, 2-1, maybe. But if we lost the game, you know what I mean? I'm sitting on the fence. I can see, But
well, you've got for all three results there, Andrew.
I can see. I don't see us doing what we did to Spurs. I don't see us going all out and smashing them 4-0 or something daft like that.
No.
Oh, Blakey reckons it might be 4-0.
Blakey. I mean, I hope so. I hope so. I think it'll be one goal in it.
I'm predicting 2-1. That will beat them.
Oof. Look at you predicting a score, Dad. What's that all about?
I'll be putting in the Super 6, I'll tell you.
I'll say 1-1.
Oh,
I
feel like I need to say a score now.
Weekend.
Yeah.
Look, I think
we'll edge it.
As long as we don't lose.
I think it might be 1-0. I think we might do it. But I think it'll be a tight game.
Yeah.
I'm
no doubt it'll be a tight game.
Yeah. And like we say, we can't underestimate. I mean, there's a lot of people that I follow on Twitter who would just seem like we're going to steamroll over Arsenal. I just don't see it being that sort of game, and I think we need to.
I love the cockiness.
Yeah,
and also the fact that we did beat them and hammered them last season, they will be hurting about that, and it was talked about in that video, wasn't it, that they did? They'll not want to repeat of that, and he'll be reminding them. So I think it'll be a close game, but I hope we can be on top.
I think the atmosphere could be huge. Actually, I think the atmosphere could play a part because, like we said a bit earlier, I think Arsenal they do have that wobble in them if they're in a hostile environment, and I think we can definitely make it like that.
Is one of their key defenders out, I think, as well.
Yes, I think it is. They are. Yeah, I think they've got a couple of players out from.
Yeah, I think one of their fullbacks is out, and I think their replacement version of that is not great. So
yeah, I think their defense is we can get at them. I think that's the thing. Their strength is going forwards. Not that they're terrible in defense, but that's not their strongest thing, is it?
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to be there for that one. But I'm nervous. I am nervous about it, I have to say. Yeah.
Healthy, yeah.
Blakey says no one will have pressed them like we will. And I think we've got to have belief in our own.
Absolutely.
Style. our own. And that's the thing. We do go into this game in form. We do play good football. If we can start quickly, then absolutely we can take it to them. But I think we cannot afford, we say this every game, but we can't afford a slow start.
No, if we start badly and give them a goal.
And do you know what? Yeah. I don't think we'll start slowly on Sunday.
No, I'll get it straight at them.
Hope not. Just repeat what we did against Spurs and we'll be fine.
Yeah. Let's do that every game. We should do that every game and it'll be fine.
Yeah. National Anthem's going to get played on Sunday.
It's going to be quiet, he says, during the National Anthem. You're supposed to sing the National Anthem. Come on.
Yeah. I find it a bit weird that all the grounds are being made to do that, actually. But anyway, the atmosphere after that, I agree, will be amazing.
Do you think they'll get a local celebrity singer in to sing it? You get Jimmy Nail out or something. Sting's been at a couple of games recently.
I saw a picture of Jimmy Nail and Alan Shearer and Sting. Was it?
Yeah, I was going to say Sting was at the game.
Yeah, it was like the picture of three of them. It was mad. Like, don't often see those three together.
No.
Anyway, whatever happens, our team is much better than it was in August 2021. That's what we've learned tonight.
Yeah.
It just shows how far we've come.
Joined the stream. I'll see what we're on about. That was our starting 11 at the start of last season.
Holy
unbelievable! Heck. It's frightening.
It's incredible.
Absolutely frightening. Anyway, so big game against Arsenal. It will go a long way to deciding our fate for the season, possibly. I don't know whether it does. Maybe that's a bit over-exaggerating it because we've still got 4 games after that, even if
there are other games to win after that as well.
Yeah. But looking forward to the draw.
Well, I think
the games, the games you live for as a fan, really, even though they make you nervous. You've got to enjoy them.
Yeah, totally.
2 wins and a draw. That's all we need.
That's all we need. Yeah. Right. Thank you to both of you. Thank you for everyone who's watched. It's been really good tonight. And it's nice it's really good to have some familiar faces back actually in the chat this week. So we're going to try and make this a regular thing on a Friday evening. And it's good. We enjoyed it.
Excellent. Yeah, it's been good.
And we'll have more reaction once the Arsenal game's over.
No doubt.
Fingers crossed. Enjoy the weekend.
Yeah, enjoy the weekend and enjoy the match, everyone. And let's hope we can come away with that win on Sunday evening.
Fingers crossed.
Definitely.